So, like, what are your tips for people who are having residual problems in the same area of their lives, right? And you had residual problem in the same area of your life, like all your relationships, marriages were kind of like in conflict over the same problems. What do you propose that people do in order to break away from the same patterns that are getting them nowhere?
I would say, first of all, it's going to be work.
Okay.
And people always want an easy fix. We want a diet pill. We want we want it to be done right now. That's
I
not
want it
going
to
to
be done
happen.
right now.
Yeah, me too. Changing your brain patterns is a process, just like getting into shape or getting healthy. You're not going to get rich by saving today. You're not going to get healthy by eating one good meal. That's just not how it works.
Yeah.
So I would say, first of all, patience. Second of all, I say to get a trigger journal. That's what I kept. And every time I would be triggered, I would write it down. What was I doing? What was happening? And it could be something as simple as I was standing in line at Target and I was so pissed. Write it down. And then I did it for 6 months, half a year. I wrote down every time I was really excited, every time I was hurt, sad, whatever. If you have an emotion, you are altering your chemicals. Every emotion is creating a chemical response. So after I did this for 6 months, I started going back and looking for similarities, looking for patterns, looking for what does the lady at Target have to do with my ex-husband? What does that have to do with the man at the grocery store? How do these
they correlate?
And I was like, oh my God, there it is. There it is. Well, I understood my absolute trauma as a child was being invisible and unimportant. And my dad, who was an alcoholic, he wasn't abusive. He wasn't physical. He just was kind of absent.
Yeah.
And so I never learned to feel important or to feel awesome, or, you know, my mom loved me. My parents loved me. It was just, I felt invisible. And I have a very vivid memory at age 4 of when my brother was born and my mother gave me a perm back in 1972. What? And because she didn't want to have to fix my hair because she has a brand new baby. Okay. So I remember it fried my hair and I looked like little orphan Annie with the little brown football helmet. Okay. And I remember being so sad and thinking, oh my gosh, my mom made me ugly on purpose because all these people were coming to see my brother. He was cute and little and they were bringing presents. Nobody gave me a present. Remember, I'm 4.
Yeah.
Your perception is your truth. And I just have a very vivid memory of that particular incident. And so that began, oh my gosh, I'm invisible. I have to do something in order for you to notice me. So again, in my family, when I was always smart, and that was when I would get attention. My dad, my granddad, who was the doctor, he would stop people. He would say, look at my smart granddaughters. Look at her grades. Look at this report card.
Yeah.
And I would get attention. So early on, my patterns were, you must do something to get attention, and being smart moves you to the top.
Yeah.
And so those were patterns that followed me. So how does that have to do with the lady at Target? It looks like it has no similarities. Oh my gosh. I was checking out. I was speaking to her. She never made eye contact with me. She just
that triggered you.
Because why? She treated me like I was invisible. I was invisible.
Wow.
And that's what we do our whole lives, is carry our patterns until you know what they're doing. You are always at their mercy.
So you write down these trigger points, you put it in a journal, right? I snapped at the lady at Target. Why? Yeah. You know what I mean? So now that you wrote these journals, like, what are the next steps? Like, these are like brain tips.
Right. I went back through and looked, what do these have in common? Okay. And I would just kind of circle the ones that I felt were similar. I'd put stars by ones I thought were similar. And I just kept going through this, digging until I saw the similarities.
So what happens next? Now that you captured the similarities on and put the notes, like when does the work begin? What happens after that?
Okay. So after I've figured out my similarities and I started, that's when I went back to school and I was in neuroscience, and I understood that this reactionary emotions that hurt us are coming from the amygdala. They're coming from this fight, flight, freeze, fawn response in your brain. And I knew that's, what we call sometimes the lizard brain. And so I gave my lizard a name because it is very important for people to separate themselves from their emotions. That's not who you are. Those are reactionary things.
Okay.
And Dr. Jill Bolte Taylor, who's a fabulous neuroscientist, she talks about, separating, giving your brain names for these specific actions.
Yeah.
Because once you separate it, you're like, oh, I can do better.
Yeah.
I'm not that. This is just happening. So I personally named my lizard Earl, and I got that from the Dixie Chick song, Earl's Gotta Die.
Okay.
And I was like, that feels like how my lizard acts, like it's doing Earl stuff. And so when I would feel these triggers, like this lady at Target or people cutting me off in traffic, like, what am I, invisible?
Yeah.
It's always that same trigger. And I would talk to my lizard brain and I would say, Earl, look at you, reminding me of how painful it is to be invisible. Remember, that was a long time ago. I've got 40 more years of information, but your brain locks your trauma at the age your trauma occurred. So when I feel invisible, I'm 4. When I feel hurt and controlled, I'm 14. And your brain follows a pattern that was developed at an age when you didn't have cognitive skills to understand it. But now I've got 40 more years of information. I can respond differently. I don't have to react to that.
Is that why it's better for people to marry later in life instead
probably so.
So anybody that's like, I met my sweetie when I was 22, we're getting married at 25. Wait a minute. Hold up. Slow down. Let's let that brain develop a little bit. Let the lizard brain become something of significance.
And I think it's so important for people to separate your behaviors from you, the person.
Yeah.
And so this just happened to me just not too long ago. So I talk to Earl all the time. I say every time I speak nationwide, I always say, if you don't talk to your brain will talk to you. The problem is it says what it always said. If you want it to say something different, you better tell it what to say.
Oh, that's a whole quote right there.
Yeah, it's very important because what is my brain always telling me? You're invisible. You're unimportant. The only way people notices you, if you're smarter, if you're prettier, if you're nicer, you got to perform in order for somebody to see you. And so I was in Target again, and I was getting ready to go on vacation. And so I haven't bought a bathing suit in forever. And P.S. Target, your lighting sucks and that you look terrible in the Target dressing room. Everyone out there will know this. So I'm trying to find a bathing suit and I'm trying them on, of course, gained COVID weight, and I'm just getting mad and pissed. And I look in the Target has mirrors in the back and the front. And I look in the mirror and I'm like, oh my God, are those my legs? What has happened to me? And I felt instantly that not good enough. Nobody's going to love you. You've got to perform to be loved. And so I started talking to Earl and I was like, Earl, look at you, came with me to Target. I did not tell you could come in this dressing room with me. You are going to have to get out of here because I'm busy right now. And all of a sudden I hear this little laughing in the stall next to me.
Yeah. Little creepster over here. Ooh.
The lady next to me, she said, honey, I don't know who Earl is, but I'll get him out of there for you.
Sounds like you're talking to a little Chucky doll. Like, hey,
I was
you shouldn't be here right now.
Oh my God. But by the time
security.
Yeah, security. Earl is in the dressing room. But by the time I started laughing, because laughter is one of the ways that you reactivate the happy chemicals.
Yeah.
And I realized, oh my gosh, this is just a teeny moment in my life, all designed to follow this pattern that I've had since 14.
Yeah.
I'm 54. I don't have to follow that pattern unless I want to.